Hey guys, what's going on? Stalvin here. I'm doing a deck tech video. And I really am only going to do deck tech videos on decks that I thoroughly enjoy and intend on playing a lot of. So you should start to see them more often. I also like to fine tune a deck and get it the way I really want to keep it until I start doing a deck tech. So I finally settled down on the build I want to go with Stampede. And I'm sure you've seen many of videos of it, and I'm sure you've seen cards come and go. But this is the build that I'm going to hold on to. So let's just go through it here. Start off with the forests. We got 18 forests, straight up forests, and it's very important that all the lands are forests, and we'll get into that later. And then next, we have some mana ramp. Nature's Lore is 2 mana. It's a sorcery. Search your library for a forest and put it on the battlefield. Then shuffle your library. It's important to note that the forest comes in untapped. That's very key because like for example, if you have 5 mana, you can tap 2 of those, use Nature's Lore, and then you have 4, and you can cast 4-drop. So you get to ramp and still play your big dudes. Also, rampant growth here. Search your library for a basic land card, put it on the battlefield tapped. So it's pretty much like a Nature's Lore, except not as good. It doesn't come in untapped, but most of the time that's fine because we can't play anything anyway. And then our last mana ramp spell is Secure Tribe Elder. This is essentially a rampant growth with a block. You play him optimally, you get to a block, and then before damage you sacrifice him to get a forest. I really like him. I wish there was more versions of him in the game. And then after that, we have our dig spells. We have Commune with Nature, our only 1-drop in the game, or in the deck rather. You look at the top 5 cards, pick a creature, and put it into your hand. This is very good because oftentimes we are digging for one of our specific creatures, whether we need a creature to get around removal, or a creature to block or kill flyers, a creature to give trample, or maybe a free creature like Tangle Golem. We'll get into those effects later. Our next draw card is Lead the Stampede. Look at the top 5 cards of your library, and then put any number of creature cards from them into your hand, and the rest on the bottom of your battlefield, or at the bottom of your library. Now, I play many creatures. I play 26. So the odds of me getting a lot of creatures with this is extremely high. Usually it can refill my hand. I have been as lucky as to get all 5 creatures, refill my hand, and my opponent quit at that point. But anyway, those are my ramp spells and my draw spells. Now let's get on to the creatures. We have Blastoderm. He's 4 mana, 5/5 with Shroud. It's essentially this creature can't be targeted by spells or abilities, right? Fortunately, we don't have any abilities that target creatures anyway, so it's as good as hexproof for us. We don't have any pumps. The logic of the deck is that I would rather draw a 5/5 than a giant growth, right? It gives me more creatures. Anyway, so and then he has Fading 3, so he essentially has 4 turns to live. You play him, he has 3. And then he has 3 turns after that to stay on the battlefield. It has that drawback because he's so good. But usually he does his job in 3 turns, so that's fine. Our next 4-drop is Imperialsaur. He's a 4 mana 5/5, and his drawback, because his numbers are so good, is that you can only cast him using basic lands. All we have is basic lands, so that's not a problem. He's very good value. 4 mana for a 5/5 is really fantastic. To put it into perspective, Angler is 7 mana, and he's a 5/5. I know he has the Delve ability, but that's how it is. And now let's go to our 4-drops, or I'm sorry, our 5-drops. We have Bitterbow Sharpshooters. These are 5 mana 4/4s with Vigilance and Reach. Vigilance means that he can attack and not have to tap, so he can stay up for blocking on your opponent's turn. Reach means that he can block flyers. Now, if you go back and watch some of my videos on this deck, or I've noticed in many of the videos that I haven't recorded, whether it be recently or in the past, I almost always the games I've lost, so many of them are because of flyers. So you can see that in my main board, I have a little bit of flying hate, but in the sideboard, which we'll get to later, I have a complete package just for flyers. Because the Flip Delvers, the Skyfishers, the Mole Drifters, that 3/3 black Delve guy, I forget his name. Anyway, this thing blocks all those perfectly. He blocks, he lives, and then he can still attack. They're fantastic. I love these guys. And then we go to our Path Wardens here. These are 5 mana 5/4s with Vigilance and Trample. These are extremely useful against people that play X1 creatures, which is pretty popular here in the Pauper format. Next we have Stampeding Elkherd. These are extremely useful. If he attacks, he's a 5 mana 5/5. If he attacks, if creatures I control have a power of 8 or greater, all my creatures gain trample until end of turn. Now, all of my creatures have at least 5 power or 4 power. So he only has to be attacking. I only have to have one other creature on the field. That's it. And when he attacks, it doesn't necessarily mean 8 power attacking. It's just 8 power on the board. So if I have Stampeding Elkherd on the field, and then I play, say, my sharpshooters here, I have 9 power on the field. Now the sharpshooters have Summoning Sickness, but when the Elkherd attacks, he still gets Trample, which is super, super good against people that play a lot of little creatures. And as I said, that's very common here in Pauper. And then our 7-drop, Tangle Golem, he's a 5/4 with affinity for forests. So the cheapest I can play him is I have to have 4 forests on the field, and he costs 3 mana. So he's essentially either a 3 mana 5/4 or cheaper. This guy is fantastic. It's really nice when I can just play him either for free or for 1 mana. It's great. So that's the main deck. It's very strong. It may not seem that way because it's not popular, but trust me, it's really fun. It's really fun to be able to play a lot of big creatures, not have to worry about electrickery, not have to worry about having to spend all your creatures to block. If I have 2 creatures on the field, I can double block an Ulamog's Crusher, kill it, and then he can only kill one of my blockers. It's so fun playing the big guys. I definitely recommend trying it out. So let's go ahead to the sideboard. Now, one thing that this deck has a weakness to is super fast aggro, super fast decks in general, really. Now, my deck can be fast, but sometimes it can't be, so that's why we run 4 Feed the Clans. Now, I used to have Tangle, I tried Fog, and they were okay, but I found myself never really using it and preferring Feed the Clan. Only because the health seemed to become so much more relevant than the Tangle. For example, or in most battles generally, right? For example, against Affinity, when my opponent sacrifices all of his artifacts to Atog and then flings it, I can use Feed the Clan in response and live. And all my opponent's permanents are gone. I can't Tangle him. So, in general, Feed the Clan is going to be better. I mean, not just for Affinity, that was just an example. It's really good against Burn, any kind of aggro-based deck, really, because it gives me that edge to give me a little bit more time to gain board presence entirely. Next we have Lignify. This one you probably haven't seen. This one is very unpopular. It's uncommon. I'm not sure why people don't play him more often. Probably because once the opponent has a 0/4, it's really hard for them to get through it. But essentially, this is a 2 mana enchantment. You enchant creature. Enchanted creature becomes a 0/4 with no abilities. Now, in my deck, that's fine. Okay, sure, he gets a free block. But I would rather him get a free block than have an Ulamog's Crusher, have an Atog, have a Killing Fiend. I think it's worth the payment of him being able to block one of my attacks to shut down his entire game plan. I'm fine with that. Next we have one Tranquility. This is for Boggles. This is for the Journey to Nowhere spam, Pestilence, things like that. Now I only have one, and that may seem strange. Like I only have one. Why have one at all? It's because whenever I had 2 or 3 Tranquilities in my deck, or in my sideboard, I never found myself bringing in more than one. It was always just one because I didn't want to dilute my deck too much. So I figured that I'll just have one in the sideboard and be happy with that. Next, in the sideboard, we have 2 more Sharpshooters and Sentinel Spider. It's essentially the same thing. It's a 5-mana 4/4 with Vigilance and Reach. It's the same thing as the Sharpshooters. So just to give you an example here, say if I'm, and I have the spiders for the same reason as the Sharpshooters. Say if I'm playing against a deck with flyers, Delver, Skyfisher, Muldrifter, what have you. What I can do is actually take out the Path Wardens, which is the 5-mana 5/4s with Vigilance and Trample, and I'll bring in the 4 spiders, the 4/4 Vigilance and Reach spiders. This replaces the slot for one of my 5-drops, so it keeps my curve good. But in addition to that, it allows me to take care of those flyers. And after that, I would probably take out 2 Commune with Nature for the other 2 Sharpshooters. This will give me 8 creatures that are 4/4s with Vigilance and Reach. That's going to take care of them flyers. First, I tried using Spider Silk Armor, which is a 3-mana enchantment. Creatures you control get +0/+1 and Reach. And that was okay. But it took away my ability to use attacks and creatures and things like that. And in addition to these being creatures, it works well with Lead the Stampede and Commune with Nature. So they're very strong against flyers, right? I haven't recorded many live videos of it, but there will definitely be some coming. And it'll be really interesting to see how this deck runs, how it operates. I love this deck, and I hope that you do too. Give this video a like if you want to see this deck in action, because the videos that get the most attention are the ones that I'm going to be playing those decks with. And I've seen that the Stampede deck has been getting more views than most of my other decks, and I think I find that to be because people want to see new decks, right? I mean, everyone's seen Stompy played a million times. Everyone's seen Killing Fiend, Delver, Boros, things like that. Those decks are fun and they're really strong, but I feel like people want to see something new, and hopefully this will bring that to the viewers like you. So give this video a like if you enjoy it. Thank you guys, and have a great day.